it's been long orchestrated. And the European Union is designed to become a single entity on the lines of what we now call a nation state. And the idea, of course, as you well know, Henrik, is to break nation states up into regions,
yes,
to de-unify any unified response to the edifice of power above it, the European Union. And again, regions, so you're making Europe into a vast, in effect, nation state. And the idea, not just in Europe, but demonstrably here, but also in America as well, is to bring down borders because they don't want nation states, so bring down the borders. But in bringing down the borders, what happens is people from different parts of the European Union with different original cultures move into other parts with different cultures. And what they're doing, and the people who are going in are being just as manipulated as those that are being affected by that. They're breaking down any sense of nationhood on purpose. They're doing the same thing in the United States for the same reasons.
Yeah.
This is not about it not being a great thing that people of different cultures come together and live together and all the rest of it. I don't have a problem with that at all.
Sure.
But if we're going to be streetwise to the agenda, we also need to ask, why are they doing this? What is one level of what's going on here? It's the same in America. I've never had a gun in my life. I wouldn't use a gun. I don't believe in violence. End of story. But you then got to, if you're going to be streetwise, you've got to ask the question, despite that, what is the real agenda behind gun laws in America taking guns that are normally quite legally held by people for their own use and all the rest of it in America? It's part of the culture. Why is there such an effort to take that out?
Exactly.
Oh, it's to protect people. No, it's not. It's because there is a plan to have a military takeover in America, and the fewer guns there are among the population, the easier and more straightforward that's going to be. So when we look at why all these different cultures are moving in and melding with other different cultures, people might say, oh, yes, a multicultural society, that's great. Oh, yes, it may be, and fine, great. But ask the question, why? Is there another level to this? And it is.
Yeah, it is.
It's to destroy a sense of nationhood because they're preparing people to become Europeans. We're all Europeans now. And the next stage of that, we're all world citizens.
The global citizen, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm seeing, quite a few articles now over the last year or two in British newspapers asking the question, what is it to be British anymore? Is it a fried breakfast? Is it fish and chips? What is it? Because, and that has been systematically done, just like everything else, to bring about this European state.
That's right, and I totally agree with you, David, because what I see is that actually diversity is destroyed and kind of culture is eroded in one way, and I feel that that's what they consciously are doing. They're ripping the roots out from the different cultures, not only Europe, then as you say, but worldwide. But they need to do that in order to kind of bring people into a more global society, a global world, or a global world government where everyone is the world citizen. But of course, I kind of frown a little bit upon that, because what I see as a consequence of that is that the multitude and diversity that makes the human species so great in that sense is actually taken away and eroded. Don't know if you agree with that or not, David.
Well, exactly that. I mean, you look, Henrik, at any tyranny, any dictatorship, and what does it want? It wants uniformity.
Yeah.
Diversity is its worst nightmare. So any dictatorship where the few wish to control the many, first of all, as I said earlier, they have to centralize decision-making, but also they have to take away diversity, so everything is uniform. Tyrannies work on uniformity, and places of freedom work on encouraging and glorying in diversity and choice. So when you look at the European Union, what is its law base constantly doing? It's unifying law across every country in the European Union, so every country is the same.
Yeah.
It's seeking this uniformity, and any country or people that want to break out of that uniformity, well, then the challenge comes from the legislators and the law enforcement to stop you breaking out of it. And what we need is a mass, first of all, understanding of what we're facing. And that's coming, but please, bit quicker.
Yeah.
But also then the next stage, which is a mass refusal to cooperate with the system. Because the system can only function with the acquiescence of the mass of the people. Because if enough people said no, then they couldn't enforce it upon us. They can enforce it upon us physically through soldiers at the door and all the rest of it, if the numbers are small. But if the numbers are very large, they can't. How can they have a global vaccination program if vast numbers of people say we're not having the vaccine, and by the way, neither is my children? You know, there's not enough people to knock on your door with the vaccine.
That's right.
So what we need to do is to start to, in large numbers, stop even waking up to the point of being aware of what's going on. Go beyond that. Because, you know, what I see, Henrik, is a lot of people are now beginning to see it because it's becoming so blatant, and people who worked for all these years to point out that it was coming and what was behind it, have helped with all that. But what I see is large numbers of people who have started to see it, who have gone to the next stage, which is to be observers in awareness of their own enslavement. Oh, look, you see what's happening now. Oh, they're doing this because of that. Oh, I knew this was coming. That's problem reaction, isn't it? Oh, that's right. Yeah, okay. So, but how does that benefit us if you move from being in ignorance of what's going on to becoming a spectator to it? It still goes on. We need to come together and start to take responsibility. And at the end of every day, ask the question. I know it's difficult because people have to earn a living, all the rest of it, but please, you know, this is so important, and we're looking this in the eye now. The end of every day, even the end of every week, what have I done to make a contribution to communicating what is happening with regard to this tyranny and to doing something about it? And if the answer is nothing, then don't complain.
That's right. Good point. So if we talk about this idea in the last couple of minutes here, David, if it indeed gets ratified now, do you know if is there anything we can do at this point in regards to saying no to it on a legal level? I haven't researched this myself, and I'm not aware if we can do petitions or whatever it might be in order to actually stop the ratification of the treaty. Do you have any information on that at all?
Well, I mean, that's for people who are experts in European law and have studied it at a deep level, because, as I said earlier, the European legislation is such a unbelievable web of interconnected legislation, laws and clauses that it's just almost unfathomable as it's meant to be. The best thing that could happen is that the Irish voted no, which would throw a spanner in the works. Because they do have this constitutional law they have to follow because of the changes that are planned to take place in that country as a result of the treaty. And like I say, the last I heard, they were on the way to voting yes. And I have to say, it's kind of ironic that I was supposed to go to Ireland in early September and expose all this, expose the background, the history, the people behind it. And some people from the Irish coalition trying to get people to vote no invited me, and then suddenly I was uninvited and told that I really shouldn't go because I talk about reptilian entities.
Oh, no.
So you know, I wrote a newsletter this week about the fact that there is a hierarchy of denial, fear, and suppression. And you know, people who are exposing some levels of this conspiracy think that they are thinking differently to those that know nothing about it and reject the fact there's a conspiracy. But actually, it's just a hierarchy. You know, there are those that dismiss the conspiracy. Then there are those that say, "Oh, yes, there is a conspiracy," but or put it another way, that those that dismiss the conspiracy say you are crazy if you think this.